Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lin and we're here to continue talking about the WandaVision finale and how divisive it was. This is part 2 of the video. Part 1 was me talking about how a lot of the supposed plot holes are not really plot holes and not proper criticisms of the show. Today we're going to be talking about what I found was legitimately disappointing about the show, and we're going to wrap it up with the stuff I really think they nailed. So if you like the content, like and subscribe, okay? So my main complaint with the finale was it needed to be just a little bit longer. Now, I'm not one of those people who are complaining about wanting more of the show. I just think a lot of the complaints I have could have been solved with one more scene, maybe a few more dialogues. So I think if you had about 10 more minutes in the final episode, they could have addressed a lot of the disappointing stuff about it. I mean, they don't even have an excuse. They did a streaming show, not a syndicated television show. They don't have to adhere to a certain length. Now, let's talk Pacific. In the first episode, I addressed how the White Vision isn't just the original Vision resurrected, and that's the reason why he just flew away instead of sticking around. However, I do think it's quite unsatisfying for him to just fly away like that. White Vision and Wanda should have had a scene, maybe like what we had in the comics Vision Quest when she ran into White Vision. However, I also accept why they didn't do this. The emotional weight of the show is the created Vision in the Hex, even though he's not the original Vision and is just built from scratch. It would have been narratively and emotionally confusing to have two separate scenes with Wanda saying goodbye to two separate Visions. But saying that, they could have at least had Wanda and Second Vision discuss the White Vision. It's such a big event that happened, but they didn't address it. Wanda should have asked White Vision about what happened to the other him. And they could have had a scene where Second Vision tell Wanda that he gave the White Vision his memories back. And they could have had a line like, "Wanda darling, I returned his memories, but they all just data to him without emotion. I want you to know he's not me returned. I need you to accept that." That would have lined up with how the show is about Wanda grieving Vision's death. Another complaint I have is how Hayward is just written as a cartoon villain in the last 2 episodes. Now, I'm not a fan of Hayward, far from it. It's just that in the last 2 episodes, they just reduced him to such a caricature. Why would SWORD agents even listen to him? He's clearly committing multiple felonies. He openly discussed a cover-up while detaining a federal agent. That character had such potential. That speech about having to do whatever it takes to keep the lights on during the snap, that was really well done. They could have kept developing him to have motives you understand, but taking actions you disagree with. But instead, by the end of the series, they had him shooting at children. Now, I know the children's aren't real, but Hayward doesn't understand magic. For all he knows, they could be real. He thinks the Vision in the sitcom world is real enough for him to try and recover it. He need to at least accept that there's a chance that the children's are real. Plus, the show clearly want us to like the children, whether they're real or not. So to write in Hayward shooting them is to decide that, oh well, he had his villain turn, he can do cartoonishly villain things now.
If only you had a little more vision.
You.
They could have had him be more complex, and doing that would have added more complexity to the MCU itself, showing us that there is a world of difference between the people who came back and the people who were left behind in this frankly dystopian post-apocalyptic world after the snap. Now let's talk about Agatha being left in Westview. In part 1, I talk about how her story is not a plot hole or a loose thread. Her character arc was satisfactorily concluded, and I'm okay with her being left alive in Westview. But there definitely need to be a little bit more of an explanation as to the mechanics of it. Just a little bit of a debrief. I'm not a cinema sins guy. I don't pretend every unanswered question is a plot hole, and I don't think every single fiction need a half an hour wrapping up and explaining everything at the end. But some stuff need a little bit of an explanation, especially if your audience initial reaction is, wait, what? How would that work? I mean, where would Agatha live? She was pretending to be Ralph's wife. So in the personality Wanda left her in, does she think she's Ralph's wife? That's icky and not okay to brainwash somebody into thinking they're somebody's wife. especially now Ralph has got his memories back. How about the town? A random person suddenly living there, thinking and saying she has always been there, especially after the events of the show, they're not going to be okay with it. She's not going to be accepted. All I want is a simple conversation. Even if Wanda left her in Ralph's care, even saying something like, I made it so she thinks she's your sister, she'll take care of you. Think of it as making up for what she put you through. Keep an eye on her and I'll be back for her. Even something simple like that would have satisfied. Now let's talk about Darcy and Woo. They were the audience surrogate for the show. Yeah, the debrief is for the week, but a little bit of debriefing is warranted. Darcy shouldn't have just left off screen. She was invested in the situation. I'm sure she wanted to meet Wanda and offer some kind words. That's the core of her character. She seems callous and flippant, but she's surprisingly sensitive. Now, Jimmy Woo, I'm more or less fine with what we got in the finale, but I could have done with just another short scene with the friends he made in the show, with Monica and Darcy. That would have satisfied me. But these are minor quibbles compared to Monica, with whom I think they probably dropped the ball in the finale. She was a major part of the emotional core of the show. Someone who understands Wanda's grief, someone who wants to solve her problems and doesn't blame her. She's not naive, but she's sympathetic and righteous. She breaks into the hex to talk to Wanda, but then what? She disappeared for one episode, and for the finale, have one scene escaping and another short scene saving the kids. She should have been integrated more into the final 2 episodes. More screen time, more to do. She needed to be the one to talk Wanda down the ledge. She needed a bigger action scene. Like, what are even her damn powers? I know Monica will be back, probably in both Secret Invasion and Captain Marvel 2, so this is just her introduction. But she was integral to the plot of the majority of the show. She should have remained so at the end. And also, another of my complaints is the action scenes were disappointing. This thing cost $225 million if rumors were to be believed, so I'm not gonna give them the TV budget excuse. And I'm not asking for more expensive action scenes. I just want a smarter use of the budget. Now, that Vision and Vision fight, it was really good. All the blows had real impact, and both of the Visions were creatively using their powers, and it was visually interesting. However, it was brief and not the main draw of the episode. The kids and Monica scene as well, I mean, the effects were good, but the action scene wasn't really inspired, and it wasn't very interesting. And once again, it was quite brief. But the main event, the big title fight between Agatha and Wanda, that was really disappointing because it was just a color-coded light show. Wanda doesn't know real magic, I know, but Agatha does. They could have had something similar to the Thanos vs. Doctor Strange fight, where one of the characters was using visually interesting variety of magic spells, and another character is just using brute force to break through them. I accept that the mind invasion thing that Wanda pulled was cool, but I think it needed more layer. What if it started by Agatha using that trick? Because remember, she just had a tour of Wanda's past traumas recently, and then Wanda turned it around on her, saying, "This is the first tricks I've learned, you can't use that on me," and dragged her back into their witch trial past. Even added layers upon layers of them dragging each other through each other's trauma, and that could have been even a chance for them to show more of Agatha's past. Now, that rune thing was kinda neat, it's fine, but it's a little bit of a 90s action movie setup, isn't it? You could kinda see it a mile away. My biggest and main complaint is that Wanda should have faced more consequences. Again, just one more scene. The town folks deserve an actual proper confrontation. I know they kinda had one earlier, which ended with Wanda attempting to lift the hex, but there could have been another scene at the end with Wanda trying to say sorry to them and them not forgiving her. Because they shouldn't. At its core, WandaVision is a tragedy. While we sympathize with her and understand Wanda's grief, what she did was hold 4,000 people hostage and essentially torture them for 2 weeks. They even had enough seed planted for a lot of payoffs. Beverly could have talked about her husband who was away on a business trip and how Wanda's hex effectively wiped his mind so he doesn't come back to the town. Where is he? What could have happened to her? Norm could angrily tell her that his ailing father he mentioned in the earlier episode has passed away while she had him under the hex. What about his grief? She should have been ran out of town by a mob, like a monster. They tried to wrap it up like a typical MCU, where this show has been anything but typical. After listing all those complaints, I wouldn't blame you if you think I hated this. but I actually really enjoyed the show overall, and even the finale I think was okay. I just think we should all be a little bit more critical of things we like. So let's end on a positive note talking about things I really like about the finale and the show. It's a love letter to sitcoms spanning 7 decades, and they really nailed it. It could have been easily just a wink wink nod nod, a lot of references, but they really captured the essence of all these different decades of sitcom while simultaneously making an entertaining TV show. Of course, it goes without saying that all the actors nailed the roles. Both Olsen and Bettany have a chance to flex their acting muscles and was given a lot more than the characters usually get. Kathryn Hahn is a revelation, and I'm ready for her to be the next Loki if she so wishes. I just want her to be showing up in a lot of MCU property, doing mischief and wreaking havoc. They also took minor characters like Woo and Darcy and made them absolutely fan favorites. Darcy especially was a divisive character back in Thor 1 and 2, and they made her and Woo emotional core of the show. Hell, Randall Park was even trending on Twitter and TikTok because of Jimmy Woo. Also, at its core, this show is about Wanda coming to terms with her grief. That part they completely landed. The show takes her through 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. And she's way more of a detailed and complex character at the end of this show, and that's gonna pay even more dividends in her appearances going forward, because from now on, every time she appears in the MCU, she'll be just a much more complex character with complex motivations and history. They gave us a show that took risks, but still had that Marvel charm and feel to it. Look at the range in this show. They had black and white scenes. They had robot resolving a punch-up with the thought exercise. They had a witch trial in Salem. They essentially had an X-File episode of government agents trying to figure out a weird anomaly. They had a prophecy resulting in a big flying witch fight. It's a risky and strange show. And if nothing else, it will always have a place as a unique show in the Marvel canon. And one of the things I love most about this show is what it could mean for the future. I want WandaVision's success to embolden Marvel to take more risk. I want them to give us stranger stuff, like horror or thriller shows where we follow ordinary powerless citizens like Darcy or Woo, and power individuals are treated like forces of nature or almost horror villains. I want an actual sitcom set in the MCU, maybe something like Damage Control. Give me a romantic comedy in the MCU. The sky is the limit. So that wraps up the main WandaVision coverage on this channel. However, I still have a couple of stuff planned centered around Wanda and Vision, about their history, about things that are in the comics. So if WandaVision left you wanting more of the characters, maybe you want to chase up certain comics, well, keep an eye on this channel. I'm also gearing up for Falcon and the Winter Soldier as well. There's also a lot of non-MCU stuff incoming, movie and television reviews, comic stuff. So like and subscribe if you like my content. And as always, thank you for watching. Peace.